Vaccines.gov, sponsored by Pfizer.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Tough day yesterday for both of LA's NFL teams. The Rams losing home to Pittsburgh by a touchdown. The Chargers lose at Kansas City by 2 touchdowns. The Rams failed to score in the fourth quarter. They dropped to 3-4. 3 of their 4 losses have come at SoFi. The Rams are at home next Sunday against Chicago. The Chargers are now 2-4. They went scoreless the entire second half at KC. The Chargers are at Dallas next Sunday. The top 5 in this week's AP college football rankings: Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State, and Washington. USC, which has lost 2 straight, fell to 24th. UCLA at 5-2 is ranked 23rd. It's the first time UCLA has been ranked ahead of USC in the polls since 2012. UCLA is at home this Saturday against Deion Sanders in Colorado. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Can't remember why we fell apart from something that was so meant to be. Forever was the promise in our hearts. Now more and more I wonder where you are. Do I ever cross your mind anytime? Do you ever wake up reaching out for me? Do I ever cross your mind anytime? I miss you.
Miles got jokes. KBLA Talk 1580. A little Brian McKnight for your messy Monday. It is yeah, you cross my mind, Negro. You do. From time to time. 800-920-1580. It is a messy Monday. And I put this on the calendar, the second to the last Monday of the month, because I want us to not get so caught up in our politics and worldly ways that we forget to become scholars of relating, of love, romance, interpersonal, family relationships, which are the foundation of our communities, right? And the last Monday of the month, we always do Black Marriage Monday, where we have 2 certified marriage family counselors, the Ma'ats, Aiza and Ayana, come in and clean up whatever mess we made today. So this is also called My Opinionated Friends Take on Relationships. My opinionated friend is somebody I just met, but boy, did I enjoy the conversation. She's a child advocate, an emotional wellness coach, a trauma-informed practitioner, and a mindfulness practitioner. And she is the founder of her own bespoke coaching boutique. Regina Louise, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome
Dominique.
back.
How are you?
Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm blessed. How are you?
The same, right? No complaints. None.
Okay. All right. Then what a great way to start the week. Okay. So Regina Louise, people famously know you for this lifetime story based on your life memoir, Somebody, Someone, and the follow-up, Someone Has Led This Child to Believe, which is your own personal journey through foster care and a lot of trauma, right? A lot of trauma. And when we talk about relationships, One of the things that we always hear, I think about the Erykah Badu song Bag Lady, is that those of us, and I do include myself in this group, who came up with a lot of trauma can have a lot of baggage that we bring to our intimate relationships. Talk to me about that.
Well, Dominique, I am going to recontextualize this idea of
Thank you.
baggage. I'm going to suggest that we inherit patterns, ways of behaving that are compulsive, that are automatic and reactive. And think of the acronym of a car. You know, young people, as we grew up, we saw a lot of things from the front row of the back seat. We saw arguments. We saw wigs get pulled off, fists fly. We saw a lot from the front row of the back seat. So I say compulsive, automatic, and reactive because of the work I do with people. And that acronym CAR is sort of like this shortcut to, oh gosh, yes. What we expose our children to, we don't have, or we didn't, when I was growing up, people had no idea of the impact, the lasting impact that would have on the children who witnessed this and then would have to navigate those patterns of violence, patterns of emotional, spiritual, and physical disrespect. And, you know, when I think about what I'm working on right now, this new book that I have, Hands on Heart, a 60-day guided journal to self-love, I wrote that book because I just left a relationship that was completely shaped by the concept of trauma bonding. You opened this conversation with the fact that I've done this and I've done that and I've done this, and you mentioned trauma. I can honestly say 90% of my life was fashioned out of trauma. And because of the injuries the emotional and psychological injuries I suffered, trauma bonding has been my love language. It's like I think about that book, The 5 Love Languages, and I'm like, you left one out. You left many out. And one in particular is trauma bonding. It is a love language, Dominique.
So break that down. I mean, I hear people say trauma bonding, but does it literally mean your connection with another person is based on the fact that you have both suffered through traumatic lives?
Well, I will say yes, and it refers to this idea of a strong connection. And the connection is formed between a person and their abuser. And it's typically a result of cycles of abuse that are intermittently reinforced, right? And it's where a victim can experience both moments of affection and kindness from the abuser, along with episodes interspersed with abuse and cruelty. It's an emotional roller coaster. And what it does is it creates a psychological bond. It's like the Stockholm syndrome. It creates a psychological bond because the victim becomes attached to the abuser. And the victim becomes attached to the abuser, hoping for, right? And cherishing only the positive moments, believing they can change the abuser's behavior by being present. So there's this saying when I would go speak at events across the country, they would use this example that a policeman or a CPS worker or a protective service person would show up at a house where violence was reported. They would go and try to take the children out of the home. And even though children were burned, just unconscionable acts of cruelty and trauma in action, they would take that child away from the parent. And every single time that child would fight, run, do anything it could to break away from the person trying to rescue them and go right back. So the same chemicals that, or rather hormones within us that set us up for love relationships is also the hormone that is present between lovers and partners, that biochemical, that oxytocin, right? That oxytocin binds us. It's the bonding hormone. So wherever that is present in a relationship, it changes our biochemistry. So we become dependent upon the relationship and that particular attachment style, because we get a sense of attachment for those of us who had no attachment, or the attachment was toxic from the beginning. And it's a very, very, very difficult, challenging process to try and break free, but it's possible.
I want to talk about, I want to talk about the how it's possible. Also very common, I would imagine.
It's very common, more common than we want to admit. I don't at this moment have the statistics because I don't think there's a lot of shame. Can you imagine the shame?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been there for sure. For sure, I've been there in a relationship. But of course, at the time, you don't recognize it as such. I was actually invited to go out with someone who had a lot of those characteristics. And I was just really, really, really happy that I didn't see a need to rescue someone. I was like, yay, Dominique, some of this work is paying off. So, but I want to hear your thoughts about, how we know when we're in that type of toxic or trauma bonded relationship, and how we break those patterns that you call compulsive, automatic, and reactive, because those don't even have to be so extreme as an abusive relationship. Those can just be things that undermine what could be promising, healthy relationships with our romantic partners, our children, or even ourselves. Those compulsive, automatic, reactive responses, how do we root those out? And what role do they play in our relationships? Regina Louise is our guest, and you're invited in. You got a question, a conversation? You hear yourself being described? Got yourself out of such a situation? Please share. 800-920-1580. It is call and response on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look. And unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So, let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California, once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at a gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event. Or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
We're celebrating 1 year of the K. From checking out the vibrant art and diverse dining in Leimert Park to cheering on your favorite team in Inglewood, you can choose your own adventure when you ride the Metro K-Line. Leave the car at home and go Metro. Visit metro.net/K-Line.
A sense of peace. A place to kick back and put down roots. A lasting legacy. However you define home, at City National, we're committed to helping you get there with our City National Ladder Up Home Loan Program. Find the full benefits at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National Bank, here for our clients and communities. Ladder Up program is available only in select areas. Terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS ID 536994.
On your period, Sudden gushes happen without warning. But now you can say goodbye to stand-up gush fears thanks to Always Ultra Thins with rapid dry technology. It absorbs gushes 2 times faster than the leading store brand and gives you up to 100% leak-free protection. Hello, clean and comfortable with Always Fear No Gush.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice, and injustice. The courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities, and sports figures, elected leaders, and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Ariva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Ariva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Indeed. Thank you. I thank you. It was nice to see everybody, by the way, at Taste of Soul, because everybody was there. Regina Louise is my guest today. She is an author. Her latest, Hands on Heart, a 60-day guided journey to self-love. She's had one of her books made into a Lifetime movie. But now she's really trying to help us get it together as a teacher and trainer with the Hoffman Institute, a not-for-profit organization dedicated to transformative adult education, among other things. How do we know if we're trauma bonded in our relationship?
Great question, and it will be different for every single person. I am saying, depending upon how they learned that particular toxic love language. But just some common curiosities could be, you find yourself cycling between highs and lows in the relationship. You experience an extreme emotional fluctuations, whereas there are moments of intense affection, love, or kindness, from the person you're in this exchange with. And then they're followed by episodes of mistreatment, neglect, or abuse.
So, but most of us would say, well, highs and lows in a relationship are normal, right? I mean, you're not going to be, Mr. or Miss romantic, wonderful every minute. But you're talking about more extreme highs and lows?
But I'm talking about extreme. When you feel that, oh, this isn't working for me, I'm not getting my needs met, but you can't leave.
Right. Okay.
And then there are these feelings of the partner or the person who is the lead in the toxic relationship. They isolate you from friends. They find a reason to find a little bit of everything wrong with a little bit of everybody you know. And part of the relationship is, oh, okay, you're not aware. Okay, I can give up a little bit more of that because this person loves me so much. Let me just, they know what's up, and this feels great because when this person brings me coffee in bed every single day, that's a sign that they love me, and that is part of that reinforcement of the positivity, right? Mm-hmm. But the more that one finds themselves feeling manipulated, you might want to slow down and think about that. The more you find yourself relying less upon your own knowing, your own discernment, and the more you're feeling isolated from your loved ones, the more you feel as though leaving the relationship could cause more harm. Staying could cause more harm than leaving. Fear of what might happen.
Right.
And then the big one, Dominic, I think, is the dependency of the emotional validation, the dependency of this sense of purpose. I'm showing up. This person is choosing me. I'm their special one, right? And I would say some of the personality qualities that would underpin some of these relationships, the classic narcissist empath personality types, right? Very classic. The narcissist needing that supply and the empath needing to be needed.
Right. Yeah.
So they have that dance often is built upon the foundation of what we're talking about here, trauma bonding.
Right. So but going back to your story, 30 different foster homes, more trauma than many people experience in their childhood. But from what I know, it was always you fighting it, you going through, escaping and going through extreme measures to get yourself out and educated and healed. So it's not that this just happens to like people who are doormats. You're talking about a pretty recent relationship where you're still grappling with some of these issues.
Right. Well, I thought I'm not going to date anybody. I know I did not have the emotional experiences. If I look at it in context of my own life, I lost every adult in my life around 14. So given that it's in relationships where who we are and who we can be and our possibilities are mirrored, I stopped having adult relationships at 14. So in some ways, my emotional development was arrested, whereas my intellectual development had to soar off the Richter scale, right? It had to soar off the charts because I had to compensate. So, in the work I do, as you mentioned, Hoffman teacher and emotional intelligence coach, what I've had to learn is the 4 domains of an individual: intellectual, emotional, spiritually, and the physical aspect. So physically, people consider me attractive, some pretty, sometimes beautiful. So I had that going. I had a nice mask. I had a nice front. And then intellectually, oh my goodness, I don't stop learning. I just go. I have this delicious hunger for learning. Emotionally, I am now 10 times more emotionally boundaried than I've ever been, to a degree where I've gone to places, I've done deep dives emotionally that on some levels could be considered shamanic, having a gift. So I was able to take the hurt and the pain and mine that and flip it into these incredible qualities of holding space, of understanding and untangling the emotional debris that oftentimes gets wrapped around our central nervous system, our fight or flight system. So I've done a lot of work there. But until then, I was just like this human floating out in the universe, just waiting for that last relationship so that I could get that master lesson. So everything I've lived set me up to have that last relationship because I avoided it. I didn't date 30 years. My son is 36 years old. So I did not engage in relationships with men.
Wow.
I just refused to do it because I knew there was a part of me that was what was the word I used? Had arrested development. And the adult part of me, the intellectual part of me, needed to protect her. And I will be very transparent and say when I first met the person that I am currently unwinding emotionally from, I checked in with my innocence because I know there's this aspect of me that's purely innocent. And I asked, is this is this something that I'm ready to risk? And I knew it was time to grow up. Now, did I know that I was going to get into something so toxic? No, but I got to tell you this. There were moments when I knew I need to leave right now. But then I also know everywhere I go, there I am. And I decided to stay.
Yeah.
I decided to stay.
Not out of fear, not out of trauma bonding, but out of a desire to work through this and get to some progress with it.
So whether the person could be in it or not, I made the decision with myself to slow down and to watch and to walk through. Because oftentimes in the relationship I just came out of, he had more of what one might call a reactive, avoidant personality attachment. My attachment is anxious attachment. So oftentimes when I became anxious, I would slow it all down and I would follow the emotional child inside of me. Once the transference happened, because he and I would be in transference with him, let's say, once, and that's a big psychological term that is interesting. We'll probably have to do another conversation, but I would go into transference with him, which means I would see him and experience him as an adult from my childhood. Once that transference happened, it's like this going into a trance. Well, I awoke while in the trance. I became conscious because when we're in a trance, we're regressed back to the place where the injury, the trauma, the experience happened. I knew enough to know, oh, right now I'm in transference. This is the gateway. It's like Harry Potter. It's like a portal key. How do I now follow the little girl who's trying to lead me to that original incident where I lost, gave up, or a piece of myself was taken without consent, pre-verbal? So I would find, one day I time traveled, and I saw the little girl that crawled under the bed when my biological mother, pulled out a gun and told my sister, I brought you in this world, I will take your ass out. So I went to that little girl as the adult Regina and put my hand out and said, come home. And I pulled that part of my psyche from under that bed and placed my hands on my heart and brought her home.
We got just 30 seconds to news, traffic, and sports, and we'll continue on the other side. How did you feel?
It's a process.
Yeah.
So the more embodied I become with the truth of who I really am, I then create a foundation, a practice of feeling I am deserving, of feeling I am loved, and lovable. So it's a patinaing. I'm patinaing a place that was empty and devoid with the truth about who I really am.
Talking with Regina, Louise, and you. It's a messy Monday on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Mike Moore. Now here's the latest from the Black Information Network. 2 American hostages are receiving medical treatment after being released by Hamas on Friday. The Israeli government says U.S. citizens Judith Renan and her 17-year-old daughter were back in Israel late Friday. The Renans were kidnapped in southern Israel on October 7th during an invasion by Palestinian Hamas militants. More migrants were dropped off in Chicago, Illinois over the weekend. City officials say since August of 2022, over 19,000 people have arrived, with more than 3,000 still awaiting placement. Officials say 28 buses from border states rolled into Chicago last week alone. The African-American mayor, Brandon Johnson, has sent a delegation to Texas to learn more about just how migrant relocation works. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Seems like COVID's everywhere again, but there's good news from Pfizer. This season's updated COVID-19 shots are now available for ages 6 months and up, and they're designed to better protect against recent variants. Ask your pharmacist or doctor and schedule at vaccines.gov. Sponsored by Pfizer.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Tough day yesterday for both of LA's NFL teams. The Rams losing home to Pittsburgh by a touchdown. The Chargers lose at Kansas City by 2 touchdowns. The Rams failed to score in the fourth quarter. They dropped to 3-4. 3 of their 4 losses have come at SoFi. The Rams are at home next Sunday against Chicago. The Chargers are now 2-4. They went scoreless the entire second half at KC. The Chargers are at Dallas next Sunday. The top 5 in this week's AP college football rankings: Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State, and Washington. USC, which has lost 2 straight, fell to 24th. UCLA at 5-2 is ranked 23rd. It's the first time UCLA has been ranked ahead of USC in the polls since 2012. UCLA is at home this Saturday against Deion Sanders in Colorado. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Los Angeles Urban League helps African American and others in underserved communities achieve true social parity, economic self-reliance, and civil rights. For over 100 years, Los Angeles Urban League has ensured our communities have access to careers with living wages, opportunities to start and grow businesses, and clear pathways to personal and professional growth. Programs like BizCamp, Construction Career Academy, Bob Business Ready, and B-Warp. The Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Program are examples of the ongoing events designed to make our centennial mission to rebuild Black Wall Street right here in LA a reality. To sign up for our newsletter or to support the Los Angeles Urban League with your time, talent, and donations, visit laul.org. That's laul.org. The Los Angeles Urban League is a proud sponsor of Urban Family Focus, Saturdays at 7 a.m. on KBLA Talk 1580.
At City National, we listen to you.
I want to expand my business and my legacy.
I want to set up the next generation for success.
I want to see my vision come to life.
I want to feel right at home.
Your goals, passions, vision, future. We want to hear it and work alongside you to achieve it. Visit cnb.com to learn more. City National Bank. Here for our clients and communities.
What's up? I'm Danelle Riley, FAMU alumni and creator of the HBCU Culture Shop. I am so proud of my new partnership with Black Beyond Measure and Target. They help me elevate community pride with my HBCU designs and continue to support Black creators and entrepreneurs with Target HBCU challenges, scholarship programs, and campus collaborations. Let's come together this homecoming season and beyond. Shop my brand and discover other Black-owned products at target.com/blackbeyondmeasure.
In Big Tobacco's Fantasyland, children are the future. Here, tobacco companies are committed to higher education, offering scholarships to students who submit essays about the benefits of vaping. The tobacco industry even sponsors summer camps for kids. Don't worry, the tobacco-sponsored programs have been linked to leaving your kids more interested in smoking. In Big Tobacco's Fantasyland, the world's deadliest industry is your child's friend. See reality at undo.org.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio, KBLA Talk 1580.
And we're talking with Regina Louise. She's an author and she is a teacher and trainer with the Hoffman Group, a not-for-profit organization. Also has her own organization, a bespoke coaching boutique. So actually, if people are really serious, they could get some coaching from you, right, Regina?
Absolutely. And I want to say this, that in terms of my latest book, Hands on Heart, one of the reasons I wrote it, Dominique, is because I knew I was coming out of this relationship that was 50% unbelievably exquisite and 50% difficult, but ultimately I was able to turn it into my own healing modality. One of the reasons I wrote this journal is because I knew that I had to come home to me completely. right? And so I thought, instead of calling him, because that's what we do. When we've been trained, and when the central nervous system, the brain, have these neural pathways that go back to the abuser, seeking that love and seeking that connection, I decided I want to become the person that I return to again and again, to build new neural receptors and build those. So I wrote this book because they say that 66 days is how long it takes for a practice to become a habit. So I wrote the book so that it would be my constant companion as I move through the process of unwinding and healing, and at the same time replacing that toxic love with new neural pathways for healthy self-love. And for each book that is purchased, I will give a book to a CASA worker, a court-appointed special advocate, a social worker, or a young person aging out of foster care who will never potentially have the exposure to some of the top-level, thought-leading mental health interventions.
So how would we find the book, get the book, and or connect with you for some work?
Right. So you connect with me by going to my website, www.IamReginaLouise.com, or Instagram. I love Instagram. You can DM me at The Real Regina Louise, and that's TheRealReginaLouise. The book is on Amazon. And here's the thing. I like to lead cohorts with this book. So if I get 10 to 20 people or 30 or 100 even who would like to sojourn through the book, I have 30-day and 60-day WhatsApp experiences where I lead off with an hour and a half Zoom experience where we discuss what we're going into. We bring up some of the biggest patterns that we have that are getting in the way and are no longer serving us. And I will do a Zoom launch, and then we create a WhatsApp community, and every day posting just a little something, and it's extraordinary. I have had social workers come on this WhatsApp and say, I don't know what it means to love myself. I love myself through the kids I'm helping. So it's extraordinary, the honesty and the safe place that people have and create for themselves in order to just be transparent. So if you want coaching, reach out to me. If you're interested in potentially group coaching, and this is for organizations, individuals, I work in many, many different contexts with this type of technology.
You know, and we started off talking about trauma bonding and these patterns, and it's interesting because every Monday we do Mindful Monday with Sahara Ali, who does some breath work with us, and kind of gives us an astrological output. But her theme for today was releasing old patterns, gaining clarity and releasing old patterns. So I guess we're kind of on a theme with that today. And you started to talk about that. We said, okay, these are recurring patterns that happen with people. And how do we get out of that? How do we break those cycles? And I think what came across my mind was that some of them are things, you talked about the little girl that your little self who you pulled out from under the bed. But some of these are things that have been in our family for more than one generation, right? And you wonder, How does that keep happening? Like, is it in the DNA? How does it keep happening, and how do we break out of it?
Well, that's a brilliant question, right? It keeps happening because we have been, I talked about oxytocin, I talked about the bonding hormone. We bond biochemically to the environment, to the people around us. We are hardwired to belong. So a lot of these patterns, I like to look at it as though in some ways, in a loving way, patterns are like experiences and behaviors that like jump us into a family, like you jump into a gang. You got to go through certain things.
You get chemically jumped into your family circuitry.
Come on.
Wow.
And in order to belong, in order to be what, we think about the identities that we create within families. Like that one's a troublemaker. That one's mommy's helper. That one's daddy's little girl. Well, guess what? Those feelings can create a sense of belonging, a sense of being intricately jumped nonetheless.
That's deep because I'm the fixer in my family, for sure.
Come on.
Dominique will fix it.
So,
Dominique will make it right. She, don't worry.
There it is.
She's coming to the rescue.
There it is. There it is. I'm the whistleblower. Or somebody says, you're Kali. You are the goddess that comes in and burns it down.
That would be my little sister, yeah.
and though, so Kali burns it down, right? We get that. Mm-hmm. But also there is the Kuan Yin, the goddess of compassion and forgiveness. So a lot of the work I do, Dominique, is around healing the central nervous system, helping individuals create new neural pathways that bring them home to themselves. So it's great when you're a child to have to get jumped into the family, to have to align with the family's values and beliefs, no matter what they may be. When we talk about the patterns, the cultural patterns of racism, you mentioned this sort of epigenetic nature. You mentioned this historical generational passing down.
Right.
All these ways of being and the qualities that they are representative of: hate, fear, rejection, abandonment. All of these are learned.
I mean, so
and
then
some of them,
go ahead.
Some of them, let me just say this, it's important. Some of this, a lot of this, especially for me, pre-verbal.
Yeah.
Pre-verbal.
So what I was where I was going with that then, and in Dr. Joy DeGruy's book, she talks about post-traumatic slave syndrome. She talks about the parenting patterns that we picked up that we still perpetuate from our enslavement. Do you think that trauma that old, 100 or so, or a couple hundred years ago, continues to show up in our love relationships?
Oh my God. Absolutely, because the love relationship is cobblestoned, if you will, with the patterning from the family who, we can look at it like this. What fires together, think of a pattern of abuse. If I'm hit, if I'm demoralized, if I'm disrespected, my central nervous system, my fight or flight is now ignited. And because I look at you, we are bonding with this attachment. You beat me senseless. I'm a young person with no language, with no concept of how to translate this, because intellectually, for young people, the intellect, this idea of cognitive understanding and meaning making, that does not come online until you're between 6 and 12 years old. So prior to 6 to 12, you're having these experiences that there's no language for, there's no concept. The brain can't quite make meaning for it. We make that mean I'm unlovable, I'm bad, I deserve to die, I deserve to be without. We basically annihilate the person's dignity, which is a synonym for self-worth. Now, the history of denigrating of our blackness as as our identity, of denigrating our worth. Like this idea that I love in terms of where do we all fit in the scheme of things.
All right, we continue on the other side. It's Regina Louise, and she's dropping bombs this morning in the love space on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Maisha Cairo here with a quick recap from my time at JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. There were speakers Ian Dunlap, Damon John, Lynn Richardson, MC Light, Don Kennedy, to name a few. Take a listen to what Justin Grant, Community Development Lead at Chase's Advancing Black Pathway, let's see what he had to say.
So I'm Justin Grant. I lead community development and national partnerships for JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Pathway strategy. And so we're focused on strengthening the economic foundation of black communities, and we're making targeted investments in programs like the Advancing Black Wealth Tour to help us get our tools and resources out to the community to drive sustained impact over time.
So when it comes to black and brown people, it sounds like Chase is making it their personal responsibility not only to facilitate these events, but to educate and provide resources. So, Mr. Grant, I have to ask, what does wealth building look like for the individual?
It's home ownership, it's having that freedom to be able to start your own business and create jobs in your community, and it's having that long-term plan towards retirement, having that vision for what you want your life to be, and you have the resources to actually live it.
I'm Maisha Cairo. Thanks for sticking around. That was my recap from Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. First stop was here in LA, and they're taking it national.
At Susan G. Komen, we believe that ending breast cancer needs all of us working together. Because if you've just been diagnosed and don't know where to turn, we've got you. If you can't afford the treatment you need, we've got you. And if you are driven to honor the loved one you've just lost, we have a place for you here. Because of you, we're supporting those who need help today while tirelessly searching for tomorrow's cures. Visit Komen.org and be a part of our Susan G. Komen community today.
Motor Trend Group, LLC, seeks a release manager, web, and mobile platforms in El Segundo, California to develop next generation of Motor Trend software platforms for MotorTrend.com and Motor Trend streaming app. Remote work permitted. Send resume to Tyler Williams, Discovery Communications, LLC, 265 Brookview Center Way, Suite 401, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37919.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
And this is a conversation that probably has a part 2 and 3. We're going to have to see if Regina Louise has time to do all that with us. Meantime, you can find her at IamReginaLouise.com or on Instagram, The Real Regina Louise. And the book on Amazon, you can find that, Hands on Heart, a 60-day guided journey to self-love. We're talking about pre-verbal and really, focused on that during the break. So that means that to really unpack some of the trauma and some of the things that we have going on with ourselves and our relationship dynamic, we need to, we talked about looking at the ancestral piece. We also need to look at what happened to us before 6, before 4, pre-verbal, pre-logical, and then find ways to process that. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. I believe one of the best things I can say about the relationship that I am currently unwinding from is it was a master teacher. And it's a master teacher because I awoke, right? Mm-hmm. I awoke. And then what I teach is awareness is the gateway to healing, to awakening. When I sit in Vipassana meditation, awareness is what I am using, if you will, as the searchlight to scan where I am in the moment, what is happening for me. And that tool, that keen sense of awareness becomes the precursor for insight, right? So it's the insights. If I knew something was afoot in my relationship the moment I asked for my need, a very perhaps simple need, to get met. And that was an impossibility that sent the person into a vicious, how do I say? I don't want to say a vicious rage, but
like a tailspin kind of.
This idea that giving anything to me meant it was taking something from him. So I want to be very careful in the language that I use because I want to have compassion.
Right.
His trauma was so compounded and unexamined that for me to ask anything threatened him. And because he had a schizophrenic mother and an alcoholic father, any ask on any level that led to intimacy, that led to closeness, was just a threat to the false self of avoidance and the false self of reactive that he had, the reactive avoidant. To give anything that actually costs nothing, but to somebody who has unexamined trauma, that little cost him nothing could have been the thread that, if pulled on, could unwind or blow down his house of cards.
Yeah, I love that you say unwinding the relationship, because I have this theory that we should stop calling them failed and just call them expired. They reached the end of their term, their usefulness, they're no longer good.
Yeah, or you graduated.
You graduated,
your
there you go.
PhD research.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was your dissertation. So, what's so funny, Dominique, is I awoke yesterday because a few days ago, I basically just said, like Adele, I can't love you in the dark. I can't love in that darkness because I have found the light of me in this situation. And I recognized then, if I were going to specialize, I feel like I want to dedicate, honestly, a large part of the rest of my time on this planet supporting people through to understand toxic bonding and the level of self that we use to keep these toxicities alive. You were talking about historical pain. I want to support people to move away from giving so much of their self, financing so much of their own heartbreak. And as Tony Braxton says, I want to teach people to unbreak their own heart.
Right. So here's the question, Regina Louise. We talked about generational trauma. We talked about historical trauma and the things that happen pre-verbal, and then from there forward, of course, as my friend Isaiah Washington says, that the DNA has memory. But will these things automatically heal over time? Is awareness enough, or do we have to intentionally, you're talking about changing the neurology, the neurological pathways and changing our reaction response. Will that happen by itself over time, or do we have to be intentional about this?
Well, going back to intentionality, I'm going to underscore awareness.
Okay.
I am going to understand awareness. And just as we might, Dominique, be intentional and about positively influencing the choices that we use when we eat.
Make
when
good
we are
choices. Right.
Yeah, when we're striving for positive physical health, we must make those same choices in spiritual and emotional health.
But that's why I ask you, is awareness enough? Because I can be aware. I can say I make this bad choice and then keep making it. I know I'm making it, and then I find myself making it again.
Right. That's why I would get you to employ a coach. This is what you can call me. We can
That
talk
means you're
offline,
5150.
Dominique. No, that means you're going to get someone who's one step ahead of you, right? They always say the 5 people that surround you are that say so much about you. So in the suffer, look, people use this hackneyed epigraph, if you will, let it go. Oh my God. You can let it go. You can say that intellectually. However, are you willing to become cognizant enough of what you need to let go? And are you also willing to be cognizant enough to put skin in the game and bring 100% of 50% of your culpability to the situation and take action? Yeah, awareness is great, but you must take action on your own behalf.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Concrete steps. And we need somebody in that 5-person team that are surrounding us and representative of our best self. Hopefully somebody is interested in your emotional wealth. That's where I come in. You know, I work with millionaires and billionaires. It is amazing, these incredible high net worth individuals. High net worth only means that, high net worth. What about the high net emotional worth?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm about, is helping people bolster and fortify their spiritual intelligence, their emotional intelligence. I think that is the way we become aware, we act, we commit to our personal growth work. It's about a commitment. You know, let go. Going back to that letting go, we can talk all day about, okay, girl, let it go, let it go. No. We need to actually investigate if we're willing to not suffer anymore.
Do an autopsy before you let it go.
You're so funny. You're so funny. So before I let it go, I need to ask myself, am I willing to no longer suffer?
Okay, great question. Am I willing to no longer suffer? I love that.
No longer suffer.
Yeah.
Right. And then if you're not, that's where I come in and I ask a few hopefully pertinent questions after I get to know you. What is the payoff to your suffering? What's the payoff for you suffering?
What's in it
What
for
are you
you,
getting
baby?
from it?
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because there's always something in it. And in that moment, what is unconscious, perhaps, has the possibility to become conscious. And let's say that the payoff came pre-verbal, before your beautiful little mind had the skill set to make a meaning. We go into somatics then. We go into the body.
Well, we definitely have to do a part 2 because it's time for me to hand the mic to Tavis Smiley. If you want more, go to IamReginaLouise.com. Thank you, girl, for a great show and a wonderful discussion to start the week. Much appreciation. Tavis Smiley is next. He's got an incredible show on tap for you. Check in with me on all the social media, KBLA 1580 or DiPrima Radio, DiPrima, and then radio. All of our podcasts, of course, are available wherever you get your pods for free. History is now, and we are making it together. Until tomorrow, one love.
I'm Mike Moore.